Moto Guzzi have just launched two new models, the Audace and the Eldorado. Given Guzzi's track record over the past 50 plus years, it's no surprise the firm's 1380cc V-twin, first introduced on the California in 2013, gets rolled out not once but twice for 2015. The new Eldorado is a curious mix of old clashing into new. On one hand you've got spoked wheels, lots of chrome and white wall tyres. But on the other hand, you've got radial brakes, ride-by-wire throttle and traction control. It's hard to believe this 315 kilogram lump of shaft-driven metal has got more electronic gadgets than Honda's flagship superbike, the Fireblade. Hard to believe, but it's true. It's about as subtle as a steam train ploughing through your living room, but there's no denying it's a handsome motorcycle. It's a comfortable motorcycle too. The riding position is about as relaxed as it gets, especially with those massive footboards. We all know cruisers are about torque, and the 1380cc V-twin has an abundance of it. Get up to 15 miles an hour, stick the bike in 6th gear, which is a taller gear for cruising, let the clutch out, take your hand off the throttle, and the Eldorado just plods along at 25 miles an hour on tick over, and it doesn't have the motor feeling like it's going to grenade itself. Maximum torque of 88 foot-pound is produced at a barely higher than tick over, 2,750 RPM. And while the motor revs to an indicated 7,000 RPM, the Eldorado really runs out of puff at about 5,500 revs. The ride is sublime. The Eldorado is well suspended, and thanks to its not insignificant weight, it just rolls over any bumps in the road and doesn't ever bat an eyelid. The old clashing with the new is well demonstrated by the Eldorado's clocks, which feature a digital core surrounded by an analog rev counter. The rev counter appears to be rubber mounted, and its wafting rev needle is almost hypnotic, while the digital display appears to float in the centre of the unit, presenting your speed in a large font that's easy to glance at. It's a weird mix, but it gets full marks from me. I can easily see the Eldorado as an all-day ride and a bike to cover serious distances, for many reasons. Firstly, it's effortlessly comfortable. Secondly, it has a 20.5 litre tank, which by my calculations is good for at least 200 miles. And thirdly, it features cruise control. The bike suits cruise control perfectly. That said, I'd be able to live without it. The same goes for the other electronic gadgets. The ride-by-wire throttle, the power modes, the traction control. Does the 315 kilogram lump of metal need all these fancy gizmos? The simple answer is no. Then there's the Eldorado's half-brother, the Audace. Think of the Audace as a slightly more customised California 1400 Custom, and you're about there. There are a handful of changes. The chrome has been replaced with matte black paint, the footboards are now foot pegs, it's got chunky front forks, now replaced with thinner right way up forks, fully adjustable rear shocks with remote reservoirs, and the custom bars have been swapped for flat, wide bars. If a full-on, shed-built custom is a hand-stretched Neapolitan pizza, then the Audace is a Pizza Express pizza from the supermarket chiller cabinet. It's hard to believe that there aren't any component changes in the Audace's engine compared to the Eldorado. The power figures are near identical, but the two engines feel so different. Guzzi have adjusted the map on the Audace, but you'd think there was a different cam in there at least. The Audace feels more responsive, the power delivery more urgent, the throttle response is just less elastic than the Eldorado. But the big 1380cc V-twin isn't a performance engine, and its sharpened state in the Audace doesn't suit the chassis as well as the slightly smoother map used in the Eldorado. As a package, the Audace is contrary. A power cruiser with an engine that's as fierce as a Labrador. A motorcycle designed to reflect your unique character, despite the fact you can walk into a dealership and just buy one. The Audace pushes the engine and chassis in a direction that doesn't work for a bike of this type. It sits slap bang in the middle of the scale, where Yamaha's VMAX sits at one extreme and, say, a Harley Breakout sits at the other. The Audace wasn't my cup of tea, but the Eldorado had me hooked. After 5 minutes, I couldn't see what the 1400 fuss was all about, but after 50 miles, I didn't want to get off. The Eldorado is a strange mix of old tech, high tech, and rose-tinted specs. It has more than a slight whiff of cheese about it too. What with those white walls, the chrome, and the fact that Moto Guzzi mentioned LAPD and Roman gods in the bike's brochure. Despite the ride, I think the Eldorado is trying a bit too hard to be cool, to be laid back. It feels all a bit, well, it feels a bit scripted. But ride one and there's no denying the Eldorado is a properly enjoyable bike to rumble around on. I don't quite know how, but it just works.